So creating something original with SketchUp can be a little bit intimidating, but I'm going to show you one of the ways you can just get started. I'm going to go ahead and create new, but when you do that, this hasn't been given a name and it hasn't been given a place. So it's best to go right away and save as and go to your SketchUp folder. There's a lot of you that are just saving them in your drive, and that's not being very organized. So make sure it's all going in your SketchUp project folder. A good name has the date code and your name in it, so 230213 for today, and just call it Modern Art 1 or anything that describes what you're trying to make. I'm pretty flexible on that as long as you put a number, because you're going to be making more than one thing here. So Modern Art and put your name. You can see that there were a few of them already there, but this is how I made those. I just like to move her out of the way so I have some room to design at the origin. Always start with the center and then keep it centered. Don't make things over there and then move them back if you can help it. Sometimes you're going to make something that then you're going to add to your model, and that's okay, but your main model needs to start at the origin. And you need to use the polygon here, even if you want a four-sided figure, because then it will center it perfectly on there. Now, this is just one way to get started, but that is the polygon tool. There is no shortcut for it. And as you look at this, you may notice that it has 6 sides. I don't want any hexagons. I have seen this default hexagon shape far more times than I care to count. So just change it. All you need to do is type the number of sides that you want. In fact, if you want a square, that has 4 sides. So you'll notice I'm just going to type. I'm live right now. No. 4S. When I press enter, it is now a 4-sided figure. I clicked and let go, and I'm going along this axis. It really helps to always pull along an axis to orient things that later on you may stack on top of this. If you're at this angle one time and that angle another, it can be problematic. All right, so a couple ways to do this. I'm going to say I want a 2 meter, I call it a pole this first time. So that's about 6 feet. If you want to do 5 and apostrophe, that's okay too, or 2M if you're going to be working with the metric system. When I press enter, I now have, I can take my tape measure and measure the diagonal here, and I've got something that's 10 feet across. Just think of it as you need something that she could climb on top of. Not 1,000 foot tall and not a little dollhouse that might get stepped on, but something in this general vicinity. So that's pretty doable. Let me go ahead and choose my polygon tool again. And this time let's make, let's say, an 8-sided figure. So 8S. Now I have an octagon. I'm going to pull this out. I'm going to make it 2M for 2 meters. And so we're in that ballpark. Now the first thing you do after that is change this from a 2-dimensional shape to a 3-dimensional one. Okay, it needs to have a base that sticks to the build plate if you're going to print. And even if you don't, this doesn't exist in 3D space yet. So I'm going to use my push-pull tool. I'm going to pull this upwards, and I guess what's a good amount? If you see there, about 3 inches would be the minimum. If you want like a 4-inch base, that's okay too. So something in that ballpark. And now I can start dividing this up. I'm just going to be random here. I'm going to grab vertices and go to midpoints and just crisscross over here with a little bit of randomness just to divide this surface up so I have something to work with. So I'm looking to divide some of the larger pieces here, and I've got several. So if I go across midpoint to midpoint right here as well. So I've divided this up. Now this one is kind of small, so sometimes I'll just erase some of the smallest little sections. So I've got a good range here. Now I'm going to use the push-pull tool. Now you may be used to selecting something and then using the push-pull tool, but there is a faster way. If I press select away from my model and then P, now as I hover over different pieces, I can push-pull them up without any trouble. And do a very quick kind of thing here. Usually you want your center pieces to be taller than the outside ones. It's not a fixed rule, but it can help. Now notice it's not letting me make this taller. It's okay. It's just going to stop right there, let go, and then click again, and then you can get past it. So let me just bring some of these in, little towers. I'm going to click and let go a couple of times. So now I've got all of my different faces pulled upwards, and each time I do that, I'm adding volume to this, which means it's going to take more material and take longer to print. Everything is going straight up, so there's no problems with angles here, but we do have another option, which is going to take material away. The offset tool is a great one to use to make hollowed out parts. So it keeps the same exact shape, and I'm going to bring that in about that far, and then I can push this down. As long as these walls around it are not too thin, it should be able to print that without any trouble at all. Now you can go down pretty far, but how do you know if it's all the way at the bottom? Well, that accidental X-ray vision that some of you have seen will let you see exactly how far down, and you can see that it's pretty far from the bottom. So I'm going to keep on going. If you go too far, you will notice that this is now all the way to the bottom face. And if you click on it, it actually then erases it. And that can be pretty cool too. You just need to make sure that there's lots of surface at the bottom that's going to touch the build plate. But a lot of times we'll go all the way through there. Now if I undo that and point out, if I knew exactly how tall that was, I could put it down so that it's pretty close, but not quite. So that's hollowed out pretty good. Let me do that on a few more. Sometimes it gives you some trouble if you can see through it. So I'm going to press K real quick, and now it's not worrying about what's on the other side. So if I push these down, you can even do a second offset and then bring a piece back up again. That can be kind of cool as well. So I've got that. Doesn't always have to go down. You can bring things up. Again, we're adding volume when we do that. But I can bring that up. Maybe push that one down. So I'm just using some random elements and going around and just creating a shape. I do want you to see that right here, this is a little on the thin side. So what can I do to fix that? I can bring this up and just touch where I want it to be equal, and then I can erase these coplanar lines and give it another try. So I can use the offset tool, bring it in a little bit, and then pull that up or push it down. So that is one of the ways that you can come up with an easy design that has some visual interest. And if you think about it, after painting this with lots of different colors and it's spinning around, we could get some very cool reflections and shadows in there. One last thing, when you are done with it, I want you to save it and then save it as painted before you start using materials. So you just do save as, go back to your drive so that you have painted and unpainted versions of each of your models. Very important. When there's problems, it can be hard to spot. I'll talk about the problems that might be there next.